Thanks for that. So good morning and welcome. And that's a quick section interview I did with Ed Roberts when I was at ASOTACon this year. You can definitely watch the full interview on our AutoHub Show YouTube channel from the ASOTACon interview series. We do also do a number of one-on-one interviews for the show, but let's get into it.
Tony Ward. I'm the general manager of Fred Bean's Kia and Langhorne. I just wanted to take a minute to talk about Larry Feldman and Career Changers USA. Larry and I have been working together for about the last 12 years now, and anything I've ever needed as far as recruiting, training, Larry has been right there. Larry's got me salespeople, he's got me managers, he's got me technicians even through the toughest times in the industry, and he is just the kind of guy who's going to tell you exactly what's on his mind. He's going to tell you exactly what he thinks. But Larry also has the expertise to back it up. When he was in the dealership world, he was a top performer, and that's really important to my staff, especially as it pertains to training. A lot of people can come in and teach out a textbook, but Larry has a real-world experience dealing with customers, dealing with situations in dealerships that we go through on a daily basis and try to train on. But Larry's been through it, so he can really empathize with the people and tell you what's worked for him and maybe what way not to go. Larry is just always at a 10. I mean, his energy level is always up there. And I think people, they just love that and they feed off of it. He's not faking it. He is genuinely excited to come in and help you. He's excited to come in and help grow your business. And he's one of those people who just really enjoys seeing dealers succeed and have a lot of fun at the same time.
Life is about connection, having a support system to lean on, and roads to endless possibility. At every turn, guiding the way, we are building the connections that move you.
So what would your dealership feel like if your entire sales staff was literally on fire, your sales and service staff? They were nonstop all over social media, completely dominating your marketplace. They could do it in 30 days or less and then continue their education to do it for an entire 6 months or a year. You literally would completely take over the entire marketplace and no one would be able to compete with you. And that's what we can do for you. So when you're walking around your community, whether you're at local restaurants or you're going to the gym, you don't want to be bothered? Fine, you won't be bothered. But a lot of people will walk up to you and say, oh my God, I love your social media. Your staff is amazing. We love what you're doing in the community. We want to come buy a car from you. We want to get an oil change at your dealership. Your community is absolutely going to love you. And it doesn't matter what platform you're on. You could be on TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all social media platforms. You will literally be all over the place. And not only will you have ads running, but your own staff is going to be promoting your brand and promoting themselves within the dealership and within the business. So it's like running an ad times 100-fold because your entire staff is participating in the process. I've traveled all over North America. I've trained Toyota. I've trained Nissan. I've been to driving sales. I've been to Women in Auto. I get hired as a speaker for conferences at universities all over the country. And I can help change the trajectory of your dealership right now.
Well, good morning and welcome. This is Ian Nethercott with the Auto Hub Show. I'm sure Larry will jump in. It's been a little bit challenging this week just because of the holiday in Canada. And of course, people obviously take that. And in addition to that, people are off on the summer sometimes, or maybe they're just busy selling cars. So I'm going to go ahead and just go into this topic myself. And of course, feel free to ask questions on the feed. I'll give you my 10 cents. And of course, if you have any comments or suggestions, feel free to chime in on Facebook or LinkedIn. I'll happy to answer those questions. And good morning. So when I look at this question in terms of what's the best way to buy a car, finance, lease, cash in 2024, There's a number of things going on, as you know, in the automotive industry. We have high inventory levels for a lot of brands. We have high interest rates, higher than people have seen probably in many years, being they're conditioned to low rates as low as 0%. We have a change in the cost of living across North America, be that in Canada or the US, increases in housing and food and taxes and other things. So I think the biggest question there from buying a car perspective is what works for the customer. I know we talk a lot about it on the show that salespeople sometimes talk too much and don't listen enough. And I'll use the example of my brother who just actually bought a new pickup recently in the market I live in. And he was looking at leasing, and he was looking at financing, and he was looking at new, and he was looking at a lot of options. What it really came down for him is, even though the cost of vehicles is higher than they've been in the last few years, due to a shortage of supply and now rebates to try and alleviate some of those inventory problems, it really for him, it was about what makes sense from a long-term ownership point of view. Now, I would say that most brands are moving closer into the leasing side. And the reason is, I think it's really about affordability, but it's more about explaining leasing. When I sold vehicles, what always amazed me was how few salespeople would explain leasing every single time. I found that when people do that, when they explain leasing every single time, when they do that, what would happen in a lot of cases is more people would lease than normal. So what I used to do every time I sold a vehicle is I would go over options with the customer. We have Larry on, so he joined a little late today, but that's all good. Larry, what's your opinion on the best way to buy a car in 2024?
I think it's pretty much the same as it's always been. Ian, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Do a little bit of research. Come in with the right attitude. It doesn't have to be adversarial. The more you know about what it is that you want to buy and you want to spend, the easier it gets. Because a lot of people come in still today and they've looked at 92 things online and they're confused. They think one package is on this car and this package is on the other car, and they have it backwards. Just like everything else, the more prepared you are, the more fun you're going to have.
Understood. Yeah. I mean, my brother, I was talking to him on the weekend. He just bought a new Ford pickup. And I initially thought, I tried to help him buy a car from a couple friends of mine. Helping family is always challenging. I figured he was going to lease it just because he was worried about his payment. And I ended up talking to him about it last night. And he's like, oh, no, I ended up financing it. So it was kind of surprising me because not only did he buy a completely different vehicle that I thought he was going to buy, he bought it in a way I didn't expect him to buy it in. So to me, it was kind of like, yeah, I think we don't spend enough time presenting options, but more importantly, listening to customers.
Hey, isn't it comforting to know, Ian, that one thing hasn't changed? 4 out of 5 people still come in and buy something that they hadn't planned on.
Absolutely. It wasn't even that. It was like he has a pickup already as a farm truck, which is a long bed truck, but he bought a short bed truck. And I'm like, okay, that your long bed truck is pretty much on its last legs, but instead of replacing it with something similar, you replaced it with something completely different, which I thought was hilarious. But at the end of the day, I think it's really about the best way to buy a car is to deal with the person. And to have that person maybe give you some options. I mean, when I sold cars, I always used to present all the options, and I'd always go over leasing because a lot of people have an opinion of leasing that may not be correct. But I always felt it was my job to go, hey, you can buy cars in multiple ways. Which way works for you? Here's a couple options. And that was really interesting to me. But you deal with car salesmen all the time. You hire people. You're working with car dealers and manufacturers. What's the biggest challenge facing car sales in 2024, in your opinion, on the
I think
that side?
Biggest challenge, I think, is going to continue to be the interest rates, because even if you negotiate a fair deal, the payment's just so much higher because of what they charge you for the money usage. I think that's going to be the biggest, because we don't have an inventory prop for the most part anymore, and people still would rather drive than take the bus or walk. But I just, it always comes down to the monthly payment, always.
So what's your opinion, having actually lived through the last high payment or high interest rate? What was it, 12% way back? 12 to 14% interest on a car loan. I mean, I know people are conditioned to that 0%. What's your opinion on that 12%? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, really good. Hold for 1 second.
Yeah.
Ian.
Yeah, I mean,
Sure,
if people aren't familiar, when you look at that 12%
Yeah,
interest rate, that wasn't all that long ago. I think it was in the 80s, right? With that 12%.
It was the Carter era.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, we have had interest rates this higher before. So that's something that obviously you got to explain to customers. But when cars are, 10 times in some cases, 10 times
Yep.
as expensive, it gets a little bit crazier than it used to be. So the question there is, what are you doing to explain those interest rates?
No problem. Yeah, but you look smart. Give me a break.
So what do you recommend that the car salesman or manager does to explain that to a customer when maybe they're conditioned to that 0% or whatever that number was?
Get the elephant out of the room immediately and explain that, listen, you've probably read and heard that interest rates are pretty high. That's why I'm going to work to get you the best possible deal and get you the best possible rate so we can get you into Winford. And bear with me here. I'm doing some interviews at
No worries.
Honda dealership.
No worries. Yeah, I sold Hondas. It's all good. So yeah, when you're looking at interest rates and when you're looking at purchasing, are you finding that there's a lot more success on the lease side today than there was even 5 years ago? I mean, what are you hearing?
Say it again, Ian.
Do you feel the leasing is going to increase today over, say, 5 years ago?
Leasing will go right back to where it was. It's just a matter of they haven't had to adjust it because first they had the scarcity problem. But sure, at some point they have to, only because the dealers would rather sell, the manufacturer would rather sell the dealers' cars every 3 years than every 5 years. So they're gonna have to get that flow through back. Thanks.
And I know you have rebates. I saw my brother talking about rebates from the domestic side. Do you think you're going to see rebates even on the import side to help there? I mean, are you hearing anything there?
I think you'll see it on everybody because no matter who you are right now in this economy, everybody's feeling a little squeezed.
Yeah.
What just happened with the Japanese stock market and futures?
Yeah.
Look what's happening in our market.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots definitely going on there. Hey,
stranger.
what's happening?
Doing well. Hey, you know what? I'm going to talk to this guy for a second. I'm going to put you in front of Harry.
Yeah, no problem. So Harry, I mean, you're dealing with dealers all the time and dealing with customers and hiring and all over. I mean, obviously the stock market. I saw some. I think it was a post this morning about how Buffett sold a bunch of Apple shares and this guy has money in bonds or something, which I thought was kind of interesting. But what do you think? Hey, Mr. Peter. So what do you think? What do you think the good side is of all this then?
The market is down 900 points already today.
900 points. Wow.
900 points. And that was after 700 points on Friday.
And what do you think the reasoning is there?
I think it's going to shake up everybody. I think it's going to help Trump get elected. And the question is, how far is the market going to drop between now and November?
Yeah, I mean, I think as you look at that, and I've seen sort of that movement even last week, you've seen a change in that. I mean, obviously there's some panic around, different areas. I mean, I think even the crypto guys were a little bit worried. I mean, I guess the good side is, if you have your money in other things, be it real estate or other things, there might be some upside there. I mean, what's your thinking there?
The crypto side, to me, that's air.
Oh, it is for sure.
It's no different than the .com, and sooner or later, it's going to crash big.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought it was kind of funny they were talking about the hedge on that side, and I even worked for a guy who said he thought that was an asset class, which I always thought was kind of funny. But yeah, I think when you look at the good side of the auto business, at least there's still a demand for vehicles. Transportation needs, I don't think, have changed all that much, and I don't think people are gonna go running to buses anytime soon. I think it's really a question of just getting better at presenting options to customers. I mean, I think that's
the
the
problem.
thing.
Also, what's going to happen with the banks with some of these loans they put out when they financed 130% of a car price?
Oh yeah, that's a great point.
Afford it.
That's a great
What's
point.
going to happen when those cars start hitting the market as used cars and they're upside down 10, 20, 30 grand? I think it's a major issue we're going to face.
Well, yeah, when you look at the used car pricing a couple of years ago, the new car pricing, to your point, the negative equity situation that used to be a domestic problem most of the time historically. Now you're seeing people with a Honda, for example, or a Toyota or a Nissan or whatever it might be, coming in with $10,000, $20,000 negative equity on that car. And they're not used to having that conversation when maybe their needs change. So I think when you look at that, I think leasing is definitely a good option, but also we're seeing other forces happen with what's going on with BYD recently, which is definitely changing. I know Tesla stock is on a downward slide today from what I've heard, but at the end of the day, change is part of the game. So the big question is, can you adapt?
Yeah, Elon Musk will just keep lowering the price of his cars. That's all.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't see Elon Musk being in challenge. I mean, I was listening to something on the weekend about how he's putting NASA to shame, which I thought was kind of interesting, just because 10 years ago or 8 years ago they didn't think he was going to survive. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Go ahead.
It's going to be interesting to see how they get these two astronauts home.
Yeah, well, you got a little bit of a problem with getting them there and back, I guess. It's a little bit of a challenge. And realistically, it was funny. They were talking about this, I guess, Starship that he's doing. And it was kind of interesting to sort of see that not only can he build these things a lot faster, the thing that was kind of interesting was just the evolution of the engine design over 3 generations. And I'm looking at this going, this guy gets manufacturing, but more importantly, he really understands simplicity. And if you can do simplicity on rocket engines, you can surely do it in other things. And I think that was another thing that's came up on the electric car front when you're looking at Tesla. And we've had a number of people on the show with the Tesla side, which is basically, we don't fix things, we replace components. And maybe that's the way it's going to go. But when you're looking at the opportunities, obviously hiring being one that you guys are involved in intimately, do you feel that that's changing in terms of the philosophy of the dealer who's saying, hey, I got to hire better staff because they're going to have to be a lot more adept at dealing with some of these questions?
I think also the dealer, the salespeople, you have to be different because for 4 years they were order payments. And all they did was take orders. Joe Schmo walked into the dealership and said, I like your car. And the salesperson said, well, this is the price. It's $10,000 over the list. You don't want it. The next Joe Schmo behind you wants it. And now they have to sell. They got to really roll up their sleeves and know about the inventory, know what the car has, why you would want to buy a Benz, why you want to buy a Ford. And I think the salespeople went to sleep and they're going to have to wake up now.
So you're seeing a lot of dealers saying, hey, I had these salesmen and they left because it just got too hard. Are you seeing that? Like, is that part of why you're replacing people?
I think so. The group that we're working at today, the group we have a regular contract with, they seem to be going through salespeople left and right.
Oh, okay. So it's just got a little too hard.
It's kind of nice for us. We don't complain about it.
So
in fact, we have their Honda store today, this week, and next weekend we're in another one of their stores. We were here last month too.
Wow.
The problem is getting people convinced to be in car sales. It's difficult.
Yeah.
People don't realize what the career is, that it is a career. It's not a job.
Right.
And when I started the industry in 1979, I left banking. I went into it not as a job, as a career.
Right.
I had an offer. It was a client of mine. He said, I don't know what you're making. Show me your last pay stub. Here's $5,000 more in your check. And I was just married, just bought my first house. So $5,000 meant a lot, 79. And I learned this business. I don't know. People don't want to do that, it seems today. There's so much job hopping around.
Well, Peter, I know what you're thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to
So much like me, it's a scandal.
I'm going to jump off because we got way too much conversation going in this.
Not a problem. Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to have the last comment there, which is basically, when I was talking to Dave, who owns a Chrysler store, and I guess his kid was talking to someone at school, and they're like, oh, your dad's a car person. They don't make any money. He's like, excuse me? So I thought it was kind of interesting, just sort of the philosophy when I got into the car business, but also today. So I think that the takeaway is when you're looking at the opportunities. Yeah.
Just to remind you, you kept on the phone for 3 hours. You tried that.
Why don't you? I have somebody you might want to see on. I have somebody on the Hang on, I'm gonna bring somebody else over to say
Yeah.
hi to you.
Yeah, we're on E for this.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good for you as well.
Sir,
Pardon? Sorry?
Okay. Excellent.
Fantastic. So they're treating you well over there?
Of course, as always.
And how's the battle? How's the battle on the recruiting side?
Yes, for sure.
Treat us very well here. Nice, we keep coming back.
Well, thanks for taking the time. Any thoughts on the current automotive market?
See it one more time.
Any thoughts on the state of the current automotive market with leasing and financing and cash purchases and recruiting?
Challenging, exciting. If we're able to, as a dealership, as an auto group, meet our customers where they want to be met, if we understand that the market has a level of control and expectations, and we're able to align with that, it's going to be a win.
And what do you?
We can't pivot and shift as an industry, right?
Yeah, you have to.
Customer experience.
Yeah. So what do you feel is the best way for a dealer like yourself to pivot in the current state of the market? Like what do you think is the best advice you would give other dealers on the pivot side?
Well, my first thing that I do is I network with those who really understand market factors,
Right.
understand the market in particular. Then I make sure that those that are in the conversation are versed as well, that they're educated.
We also like to, hopefully this doesn't go out too far because her husband and my wife are very sensitive.
So then just making sure that those voices in the conversation are learned and educated so we don't waste a lot of time with opinions.
Right.
That can sometimes happen. And to listen.
Oh yeah, I was talking about that earlier on. I mean, the presenting options to customers today versus 2 years ago when it was like, yeah, do you want to buy this vehicle or not? I think is more important than ever. And I worked at a Honda store for 10 years. So I'm pretty familiar with the brand, but at the end of the day, I mean, the thing that I thought always made me very successful as a sales person and a manager was basically showing people options, the power of options. And I think today that's more important than ever is, you know, that customer may be a little intimidated by pricing today or interest rates, but the options really, you know, I think are very powerful because you're saying, hey, there's different ways to do this. Right. And I think it's important to do that, I think.
And then to also really educate them on the strength of our service centers as a way to continue that customer care and to really support this very big decision they just made. For us, that handoff is very important. We take a lot of attention to make certain that they know that they're guests here, that they know how to use our night drop box, how to use our express, that they have a lot of amenities here. That's important. We're all busy. We don't want to make them think. Where we can do the thinking for them,
Right.
we should do that. Where we shouldn't be doing the thinking for them, we need to respect that. And so really it's just, you know, focusing on the human part of the business and knowing it's people.
Right. And what's your opinion on the future from a manufacturer's or product point of view? You think the manufacturer's going to switch up product a little bit or switch up rebates a little bit as we get into the end of the summer season to help you guys out? I mean, what's your opinion there?
Well, it's interesting because, again, I do believe it's about us all, either at the dealership level or manufacturer level, listening to the market and to really also understanding what's going to move them. You know, what are those things that they have as expectations and meeting them where they're at? Because we're in an educated space now. You could go onto YouTube.
Right.
You could you go onto all these different sites and learn everything. So I just really think they're very educated. And so I respect what they bring to the process. I want to meet them where they are. And so it's listening. It's a bit of listening and yet understanding the market.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%.
In this noise here, you still can, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was funny. I was talking to my brother on the weekend. I was saying earlier to Larry that he was going to buy one vehicle, bought a completely different vehicle. I thought he was going to lease it. He ended up financing it, which was interesting. But more importantly, it wasn't at all how I thought he would do it, even though I tried to help him being in the business myself. But it was kind of interesting because all the stuff that we've said for years was basically what he was doing, but it was counterintuitive what I thought he was going to do. So what I took away from it, having a discussion with him yesterday, was basically, you really need to listen to the situation. You really need to spend a lot more time doing that than you did even a year or two ago. Not that you shouldn't have been, but more importantly, you need to be able to pivot that and say, okay, well, here's how it doesn't work. Here's some ways it can work. And I think that's more important than ever. So I think when you're training new staff or even staff that may have been doing it for a while, you've got to open their eyes to the fact that, well, your job here is to help that person make a decision that works for them. So it might be switching the vehicle. It might be the payment. It could be different things. And we've had the discussion many times on the show with women being part of the car decision in much larger percentage than we thought. But it's also that technology piece. I mean, what's your opinion on how that's changed with how people buy cars, say, versus a couple of years ago?
Well, I think I give the market a lot of kudos. I think they're savvier than some others would think they are. And so I want them to have an easy process. I want them to have a simple process, because I also want to interject that fun and that hospitality.
Right.
So there is also that fine balance. So there's that technology tools, and I call it like death by tools. If you don't implement, right? If you don't implement, so that it is working it backwards from what is the desired outcome, and then really, working that into the process, and then being willing to say, hey, we tried it. It didn't work, right?
So do you feel the road to the sale then is basically more a thing of the past than it was historically? Like, do you think that road to the sale has dramatically changed over the last 3 years?
I don't, because human beings don't change.
Right.
I think that from all of time, that the most important thing is to recognize.
But homework is the Darwin's theory of evolution, where men did evolve, but they got to do everything around here. It's fun.
It is. I was thinking about this when I was running. I was like, wait a second, something funny happened. And that is that sometimes I saw it on LinkedIn, I think, where every once in a while, if you go outside of what you're known for. So if I'm known for automotive and my career in automotive, and then suddenly I might shift and I might start talking about something else. So I'm an advocate, and I like to bring a lot of attention to epilepsy as something that really affects families. So I also spend a lot of time in circles that are doctors and advocate circles.
Yeah.
It's funny, if I go outside of automotive and I'll go into epilepsy, right? Sometimes, you'll get this feeling like, oh, is she too personal? Well, that's a funny thing, because I think, no, I'm just in a different circle, still professional on the same platform. And I think, why are there those concepts? And that's because we don't recognize the whole human being, right?
Right.
And so then when I'm running and I'm thinking about this, I'm like, the same thing can happen when we don't recognize that the market is a bunch of human beings.
Right.
And so it's that human beingness that we have to keep our eyes on. And that's never changed.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean,
does it make sense here?
That was the fun part of working in this career.
Yeah.
Is everybody that sat in front of you talked to came from a different walk of life.
Right.
Whether they were street bum or brain surgeon. And that's what I love the most, bringing that out from a customer so I can also tell them that I was about it. I had so many customers that still pick up the phone 40 years later. Harry, can you help me with that car?
Right.
Please help me. What should I do? Because you broke the barrier. We all know it's breaking that initial barrier down and getting into their head a little bit.
Yeah.
I found that amazing. If a customer invited me someplace, I went. I went into the worst neighborhoods in Philadelphia to bars with bar owners. I had one in West Philadelphia, and it was Sonny Viner's 70th birthday. His wife invited me. We walked into a bar, my wife and I, on a Saturday. Heads all turned. What the hell are you guys doing in the neighborhood? And Sonny goes, hug and a kiss. His wife gives me a hug and a kiss. A bottle of Dom Perignon comes onto the bar. And he goes, you really came down here? I go, why wouldn't I? What's the worst that can happen? I can get killed. And that's the attitude I always had.
Right.
It didn't matter what business a customer was in. I was there. If they dug ditches, I went out to the sites. And it's how I did business. I was never a salesperson. I was always in management. I sold more cars at Fleetway Leasing Company than anybody sold.
Right.
Strictly because I wanted my referral. Everybody got a business card. I don't care if I went to the gym and my card was sopping wet. They got it.
Yeah.
They got it. And people have gotten away from that type of doing business. I mean, people, they want to come to a desk, sit on a computer, and that's it, and get leads.
Yeah. I think that's why I enjoy my job. So I spend a lot of time, looking at the market. I spend a lot of time then saying, okay, what campaigns, what type of advertising should we do? But then that other part of my role is that dealership experience.
Right.
And I feel like that is like critical.
Your group is a totally unique group. There's an atmosphere in here that you don't see in other dealerships. It's when we sit in these training sessions and all the managers come up here and sit with us. It's just we don't see that in a lot of dealerships. We just don't. And I think you've done an unbelievable job. Your whole staff has done an unbelievable job with that. And it's a pleasure coming here. Even just look, I always look what's up on the board. I look what's up there. I read through that stuff. I don't know how many people do that. It's just my thing. And it's just nice to see you guys care about your staff. And that's, it's so important. I walk down to your used car store. Every time I'm here, I step in there and say, it's just who I am. And that's why I did a lot of business though. And I wasn't even in sales. I was running the company.
Yeah. I mean, it's about customers 100%. I mean, I think that's the difference. The road to the sale is a structure, but I think if you don't have a structure, then you got a little bit of a different problem. But I would say that
I'm a big fan of processes.
Oh, yeah.
If you lose that human beingness, we'll make that a big word, human beingness to the process, or you're afraid to take it and individualize it and personalize it with that level of hospitality and to meet them where they want to be, then we're not really acknowledging what is today's consumer. I'm so excited to have this conversation. I have to excuse myself, but what a pleasure.
No problem. No problem. I have conversations every week with different people from all over North America and actually different countries. So I had an interesting one with a gentleman with a military background who got into the car business. And I asked him, he's a technology guy. And I asked him, how did, you went from a fighter pilot to working in technology and automotive. And I was like, that's a crazy story. Like what? He's like, I was just really interested in the challenges. And I thought that was really interesting because some people are intimidated by the car business because of the challenges. And it was kind of interesting, just someone from a totally different walk of life who was like, wow, like it was interesting.
He was a fighter pilot. He had to like challenges.
Oh, yeah.
I would say so.
No worries. Thanks.
I'll see you later.
Well, I know you guys are busy, so thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
And, I hope you hire lots of great staff and teach about the opportunities. Do you find that the newer staff are open to the opportunities in the car business?
Great. All right. Have a good one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Always a pleasure.
Yep.
Thumb up and break with.
Thanks very much for taking the time today to learn more about leasing, financing, and cash purchases in automotive. Obviously, with the holiday today in Ontario and other places in Canada, there was less interest from the Canadian side because of the holiday. But also, I think the summer is just a really crazy busy time. I wanted to thank Larry Feldman, Mr. Wilner, Peter Smith, and of course the dealer there, to give her thoughts on what it's like to run a car dealership in 2024. If you have any thoughts or want to be on a future show, either a recorded show or as a dealer on a one-on-one show or a live show, let me know. And I thank you for taking the time today. I'm going to cut the show a little bit short just because of time. And I hope you have yourself a great week. Welcome to August. Bye for now.